Hi everyone, Whitney Lowe here from the Academy of Clinical Massage, and today in our Clinical Insights videos, we're going to be focusing on the critical importance of continuing education in the massage therapy field. One of the reasons I wanted to focus on this is there have been movements in a number of states in the U.S. recently to eliminate continuing education requirements. A lot of people don't see this as necessary. They just see it as something else that costs more money and is, making CE providers rich, which is also a myth. But there's a lot of sort of decisions or determinations about questions even about, do we really need continuing education? So I want to focus on some critical reasons why I think continuing education is so important, but not only just continuing education, really the right type of continuing education is really critical. So let's look at what are the reasons that we feel like this is really necessary in the massage therapy world. One of the most important places to start is, and I've mentioned this in one of our previous videos, about the way that massage therapy as a field is sort of split into these two different dimensions. There is the wellness model, which is basically also sometimes called the personal care service model, where massage is used mainly as a means of enhancing wellness and feeling better and general relaxation processes. The other model is massage therapy used as a healthcare practice, where you're trying to address some type of compromised health condition. Now, most massage therapy schools in their basic training do a pretty good job of training people for working in that wellness model. But there's a great deal of deficiency in the training in entry-level massage programs to train practitioners to work in a healthcare setting as a healthcare professional. And that's one of the critical reasons why continuing education is so important. It turns out that CE courses really become a lot of that advanced training. Now, there's some other big issues here in that there's no standardized curriculum in CE courses for what people really need to know to work in those kind of environments. So we're still a long way away from having a good standardized curriculum, but this is a step in the right direction, and it's an important reason why CE courses are so necessary. So just as an example, in your basic training, you might have learned about some common pain and injury conditions like low back pain or carpal tunnel syndrome or something like that. And when a client comes in with some of these things, it would be okay if they came in with just a textbook description every time, but that's not what really happens. What happens in the real clinical world is people come in with all kinds of combinations of things and different signs and symptoms, and it really is upon you as a practitioner to determine what is the nature of that problem and should I even be working on this? And if so, what is going to be the best strategy of working with them? And to do that, you really need much more advanced training. And that's what a lot of these CE courses will be focusing on, preparing you to work in that environment more effectively. And of course, the more effective you are in that environment, the better outcomes your clients are going to have and the more successful you'll be in your practice. It just makes sense. The next important reason why CE courses are so important has to do with keeping current with a lot of the research literature that is published on a regular basis. This is one of the most common reasons that you'll hear talked about in the healthcare professions for why most other healthcare professions do require continuing education courses for their practitioners. There's constantly new research coming out that modifies things that we had learned previously or enhances our understanding of what's going on with various types of healthcare conditions that people might be experiencing. And if you're only basing your work on what you learned in massage school years ago, you might not be working most efficiently, and there might be ways in which we find we could do a whole lot better of getting better care for people if we are applying some of the concepts that come out of this new research. One of the things that's been particularly interesting for me to watch over the course of 3.5 decades in this profession is how much different clients are now coming in to their care with a lot more education than they used to have. Back in the early days when I was practicing, a lot of medical information was not easily accessible to the average person. But now with the internet and the proliferance of all this information out there, people do a lot of their own research about their conditions and come in armed with a lot of information about this in advance. And so for you as a practitioner, if you're going to help them most effectively, it really is in your best interest to have a good understanding of what might be going on with many of the different problems and complaints that they might present. It is through a lot of the continuing education opportunities that you'll have a way to learn those things and maybe learn what some of your deficiencies are and how you can go about making up for those deficiencies and being much more effective for your clients as a result of that. One of the other things that's so important as a healthcare professional, as a massage therapist, you have an opportunity to work in conjunction with a lot of other health professionals who might be referring people to you, or people you might be referring other clients to. So for example, if somebody has something that's maybe not within your scope of expertise or would be seen better by somebody else, you can send them to another health professional that might be more effective. And the more you understand about the nature of their work and what they do, and a lot of this might come from more advanced training and skills in other areas, the better you're going to be set for helping them out. So now let me take just a moment to focus on some of the things that are primarily taught in a lot of these continuing education programs. There are some great approaches in many of these programs, but some other ways in which I think some of them miss the mark, and we could sure see some improvement in these directions. The first thing is, what do you tend to get in most of these CE programs? In the massage therapy world, the majority of continuing education programs focus on teaching new techniques and hands-on skills. And in fact, the requirements for many different states focus on teaching hands-on skills, because I noticed this early on when online education first came on the scene. There was a lot of discussion amongst some of the state licensure boards like, well, we're not going to give credit for online courses because you're not learning new skills. You're not, doing something new and different with your hands. With the idea being that's the only important or relevant thing to learn. That's a huge mistake, because there's a lot of very important things that might not necessarily be just about learning a new technique or modality. So while this is the place that continuing education courses tend to excel, is that in-person interaction of learning new methods, new ways to do something, new approaches, checking on hand position or body mechanics. Those are the things that really work well in the classroom that the CE courses can really excel at. But the reality is, if you're going to be treating pain and injury problems or working with compromised healthcare conditions, there's so much more to learn. And much of this doesn't necessarily involve learning new techniques or methods. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of these kinds of courses might be very effective as online education courses that focus on some of those things that are not addressed in the typical CE course focusing on hands-on techniques. As an example, one of the things that I found years ago was I was having a real challenge with a lot of the people who were taking our courses, and we were trying to focus on the real importance of learning clinical reasoning. So, for example, if a person comes into your clinic and they've got a particular group of signs and symptoms that doesn't seem immediately familiar to you about what it is, you've got to go through an investigative process and see what the nature of that problem is and see if it fits into something that you can effectively treat, or does this need to be referred to somebody else? And then if you're going to choose to treat them, how are you going to go about it? Which method or strategy is going to be most effective? And this is what we call clinical reasoning. And again, it's difficult to teach clinical reasoning processes in the 2-day weekend workshop. And that's one of the reasons why I really developed a lot of what we do in our online programs. This goes back to like the early 2000s, looking at ways to develop and teach clinical reasoning more effectively. What I found is that we can actually do a much better job of that piece, the clinical reasoning piece, in the online environment where people can do self-paced programs. They can dig into certain topics more specifically. They can have a bit more of a personalized learning experience. This is a much more effective way to learn those kinds of critical skills. One of the other things about the personalized learning process that I think is so important, that really is excelling in the online program approach, is the ability to make errors or mistakes and correct those things and understand why you made some of those mistakes. In the classroom environment, which again excels at a number of things like hands-on demonstrations or immediate supervision of physical skills and abilities, but it's really difficult to have those processes of seeing mistakes, going back and correcting those things and doing something different, because the classroom is really one pace fits all. Whatever is the pace that the instructor goes through, that's the pace that you're going to be doing things. And if you don't understand something or don't get it, it's not easy just to stop the class and wait until you really get a good grasp of that. That's something that you can do in the online environment, and that's what makes it a lot more effective as a learning process for this kind of thing. One of the big things that comes along with taking more advanced continuing education approaches is your ability to communicate with other healthcare professionals a lot more effectively. We're finding situations where massage therapists are working on team approaches with other healthcare professionals, like maybe you work in a chiropractic clinic or a physiotherapy clinic, or work with a sports team and there's other healthcare professionals that are also working with the individuals that you're treating. As you become more a part of those teams, your ability to communicate more effectively with the other healthcare professionals who've learned similar information is greatly enhanced once you have a lot more of that advanced knowledge. So it's critically important that you keep current with those things and also push yourself to really learn a lot of the things that are going to be necessary in those environments. And that's one of the things that we do a whole lot more in the continuing education courses. So as we mentioned earlier, one of the things that is really unique in this approach about continuing education is you are setting your own curriculum, or you're developing your own path, your unique strategy for what you want to learn, what you think is important to learn. And that's got a great deal of benefit in the personal process and your passion for learning on a particular subject. So that's great. The other thing that's a little bit more challenging about that is some of those things that might not seem as fun to learn, like maybe, documentation or, communication skills with other health professionals. Those might not be things that you would immediately choose to learn, but they are critically important. So if you can find ways to find courses that weave those concepts in, that will make you a much better and much more well-rounded practitioner as well. So as a massage therapist, remember that your dedication to learning, and especially to your advanced learning, has a great deal of benefit, not only for you personally, but it's going to have a great deal of benefit in the outcomes that you're going to get with your clients. And of course, the more successful you are in getting those outcomes with your clients, the more likely it is you're going to grow your practice exponentially because of the success that you're able to achieve. So these things go hand in hand with each other. So initially, you recognize the importance of investing in your education to get started in this field, and that's really an ongoing process. You should always look at these continuing education opportunities as an investment in your own future and personal development that's going to help you grow as a practitioner in the long run. Now, I will also say on the flip side of this, there's sort of a dark side to this whole process too, which is a lot of people tend to sort of ignore the mandatory continuing education requirements until they come right up against the deadline for, let's say, license renewal or renewing their certifications with certain organizations or something like that. As a result, they just go look for whatever is the cheapest, quickest, easiest way to meet those requirements with some type of CE course. Now, there's a lot of that goes on out there, and it's not something that's going to immediately stop. But I just want to emphasize that if you've got the time, recognize this as an important investment in your future and try to make plans well in advance of doing something that's really going to mean something for you personally. So, maybe you might live in a geographic area that's not easily accessible to a lot of different types of hands-on courses, for example. But there can be some great opportunities that you can do with online education wherever you live, anywhere in the world. So look out for something that's going to be that you think is going to push you to the next level professionally. It's going to really help you grow as an individual, and it's going to help you get better outcomes in your practice. It's going to be a lot more of a meaningful type of learning experience for you in the long run. So just remember that learning never stops. Here in this field, we're trying to focus on ways that we can better help our clients, better serve them, and for many of those people that you're working with who might have various types of pain and injury complaints, finding ways to make their life better. So your investment into your own practice and your own education is going to have a great deal of benefit for them, not only in their personal experiences of their lives, but also in the lives of the people that they refer to you because you were successful in helping them gain what they needed to gain. So these are some of the key things that I think are most important, and why I think it's really critical for massage therapists to invest in their education and focus on finding meaningful learning experiences for you to meet your continuing education requirements, and also just see what is going to make you a better practitioner, what are you really motivated and interested to learn more about, and follow and pursue that, because it's going to make a big impact on your practice. And of course, if you'd like to learn more about treating pain and injury complaints, we'd love to have you join us here at the Academy of Clinical Massage. Our primary focus is on orthopedic or soft tissue pain and injury problems, and our comprehensive online education program is really designed to meet the needs of the busy therapist. You can work anytime that you want, focus on the things that really mean a lot to you, and learn a great deal about numerous soft tissue pain and injury problems, and become that excellent and outstanding clinical practitioner that your clients are really looking for. So you can hop on over to our website at academyofclinicalmassage.com. I'll leave a link in the description down below as well. So stay tuned for more videos as we focus on some of these key important topics in continuing education and focus on the things that are going to really help you push the envelope in becoming a much better practitioner down the road as well. We'll see you in the next video.